3. All right, rainy season is here, and in the rainy season, if you sit down on the ground, you get your tail wet. And so then people are like, oh, how do I sketch? Usually it's easy to sketch when you're sitting on the ground. If you're sitting on the ground, you can put your journal on one leg. You can even, this is my favorite way of working my binoculars, I will prop my binoculars up on my knee. So one knee, elbow, and my binoculars, I put my finger against my head here. And so this allows me to sketch through my binoculars really easy. So you're not having to, take this down and kind of juggle all this sort of stuff. So you've got your binoculars braced against your elbow, and you're sketching like that. So that's my strategy for sketching sitting down. If you're not sketching through your binoculars, you can sit any way that feels comfortable for you. But in the rainy season, unless you're wearing rain pants, you get a wet tailbone. So how do you sketch standing up? I'm going to show you a couple of strategies that I use, and it's good to experiment and play with your own journal and see what works for you with the journal that's the size that you carry and your arm length. Figure out in advance how you're going to hold your journal when you're sketching and standing up. So here's what I do. Might as well start with this one. If you've got a journal that can fold back on itself, I do that. And on a journal this size, I put my forearm diagonally across the back and I grab the corner. And then I tuck that into my chest. The more that I tuck it into me, the more of a stable drawing platform it makes. So by having this diagonally across the back, that makes a nice stable drawing platform. For journals like this one, I can't open this one up and so and unfold it back on itself. So what I do is I put the corner of the sketchbook underneath my arm, I wrap my arm around the front of it, and I press the journal into my chest like that. So that makes, again, a stable drawing platform. And so I know that this is sort of the posture I'm going to take, and I'll get my sketch on. If your arm isn't long enough to wrap around your journal, you can get a smaller journal. So with a smaller journal, with this one, you can see I can actually get my whole forearm here. Same thing, I'm pressing it into my body. So by the way, a journal with a kind of hard enough spine that you can actually press it into your body is good. If it's like just soggy and kind of flops out the bottom, that's not going to work. So that's why a nice stiff journal makes a good drawing surface. So I'm giving myself a good stand-up drawing surface there. If your journal gets too small, this becomes more difficult. What you really want to avoid, though, is holding your journal like this, like in your reading position, and trying to draw on it, because this just gets too floppy. You want to brace it one way or another to give yourself a stable drawing platform. And so you want to figure out, for a journal that's your size, how are you going to hold that? How are you going to, what's the most comfortable way for you to put that on your lap sitting down? How are you going to hold that standing up so that when you're out there getting your sketch on, that's easier to do? One last word of warning. Sometimes when we're sketching, say you're sketching standing up, drawing a bird, we're out here at Quarry Lakes, and this is actually take 3 because we had an interruption because a bald eagle flew over. If you're standing up and you're sketching and using binoculars, this is the ultimate juggling act. So what you have to do is you are going to hold your journal with one hand, hold your pencil with the other, and you're going to hold your binoculars with the other hand. And that seems to work pretty well. The problem is, if you only have 2 arms, then you're juggling between your binoculars and your pencil. The most important thing to do with this is not to do this. Don't hold your pencil and your binoculars in the same hand and put these up to your eye. All right? You would think that I would learn that lesson by one bad experience. It took me 2 or 3. But don't let this happen to you. Right? That's a bad idea. So either put your pencil over here in this hand and bring it up to you. By the way, lighter weight binoculars allow you to hold them with one arm more easily. Heavier binoculars, they get more wobbly out here. But a lighter weight pair of binoculars, you put it up against your forehead, and notice I've got the finger pressing against my forehead. So you press that finger against the forehead, and then you're back down to your sketching. You'll leave your pencil behind, and finger against the forehead to help stabilize it. If you have a hard time remembering what you saw when you get back down here, while you're actually looking through your binoculars, say out loud the features that you're seeing. So I'm seeing a short conical bill, very round head with a sharp angle underneath the throat, like that. So I'm sort of trying to visualize it. Sometimes if I will kind of make gestures in the air showing the angles that I want things to be, or sometimes I'll kind of just sort of move my body trying to kinesthetically feel my way around the bird. All that helps me take this stuff that I'm visualizing, that processing of moving with it, of seeing it, helps me remember that when I get down to here, saying the stuff out loud, moving your hands, sketching it in the air. When you get back down to looking at your paper, you'll remember much more vividly what it is you're looking at. Otherwise, you're going, it's a bird, you're seeing all these details, and then you go, and I'm blank, right? So, to avoid that, verbalize what you see, sketch things in the air, or if you can't sketch them in the air, kind of just even kind of, they're kind of going down an angle like that, and sort of body angle like that. So you're trying to kind of kinesthetically get a feel for some of the lines you're going to be making. It looks weird to other people, but that's their problem. All right? So just with your own journal, experiment with it, see how it tucks into your body, see what you like. Generally, with size of journal, the trick is to get yourself a journal that is as large as you will reasonably regularly bring with you into the field. They get to be a certain size, they're unwieldy, you're going to leave it at home. They get too small, there's not enough room for you to put your ideas side by side on the page together and get several views of the same coot. So it's a balance between how big you actually will bring with you and wanting to get more stuff on the page. This is your brain on paper. Right? The more room that it has to spread out, the easier it is for you to do that. So it's a juggling act. But some people, if this is the only size journal that you actually will bring with you, you better bring this one with you. The process of writing stuff down, getting it onto the paper, is a big part of learning, of thinking. When you get your observations out of here and onto the page, there's a dance that starts to happen between your ideas and what you're seeing and what's forming on the page. This externalizing your thinking is a very, very powerful tool. And there's also what's called the generation effect, which is that because you're creating something, because you're putting these things down, you're making something, whether either with writing or with drawing, that's going to make your memory for these experiences much more vivid. So what happens when you get your stuff down onto the page is greater than what happens if you're sitting around trying to think about these things in your head. And that's part of the power and the magic of using a nature journal.